Yeah, this may come as a shock to some of you, but this new album from Dance Gavin Dance, Jackpot Juicer, it's really bad. Hi there everyone, welcome back to On the Flip Side. My name is Adam Shawwalker, your host, and today I have the great burden of delivering the news that this Dance Gavin Dance album is pretty goddamn bad. I've had people I know personally trying to convince me for years that Dance Gavin Dance was in fact a good band. Probably since the release of, I think, Mothership in 2016. And nothing that anyone has shown me this whole time, be it old or new material, has had me particularly excited. And in most cases I've actively gone out of my way to avoid listening to this band unless I absolutely had to. So there's this new album, Jackpot Juicer, and the same people as always have come out of the woodwork to tell me to give this album a chance. And you know what? I listened to it. Now, I understand this band's appeal, and I know why it doesn't land for me. Believe it or not, I did not have an emo phase in my adolescence, despite what my junior year ID photo may tell you. What I'm getting at here is that this band is the logical conclusion and development for all of the bands that could remotely appeal to the emo or the scene kid style. I'm talking Parkway Drive, Sleeping with Sirens, August Burns Red, Miss May I, and it kind of blends that crowd with the slightly more jock, hardcore emo kids who liked Attila or the Devil Wears Prada, or just some like straight up Linkin Park. Basically any vapid shit that came out between 2009 and 2013 that would be like all over a Vans Warped Tour lineup. Now, while those bands didn't really appeal to me, those people who did like that stuff were really the only people I could kind of blend in with, even though our tastes were vastly different. But it did give me maybe not a very deep appreciation for that sound, but it gave me more of an understanding that I would have probably missed had I not been around that crowd. The material on this album is exactly the right speed for a crowd of late 20s, early 30-somethings to try their best to hop along to in a very desperate clutching at the festival lineup parties of their late high school careers. Basically what I'm saying, this album is for the walking stereotypes with forest tattoo sleeves and septum piercings. Past the complete sweeping generalizations that I have just made, how's the music really? Well, Dance Gavin Dance are currently slated, or at least I think they're currently supposed to be touring with Coheed and Cambria, and that makes sense to me because this album really does sound like a lot like Coheed, except a little bit more technical on the surface with lots of staccato guitar work, and the vocalist who at points is a bit of a dead ringer for Claudio Sanchez. Except Coheed, while I may not be the biggest fan of, seems to have some ideas left, whereas this, it's like an empty reservoir. I don't want to go through this thing without giving some credit where credit is due. There are good performances on this album. There's moments here where what I'm hearing is not inherently bad, the parts are fine. This is really an example, or a prime example, of the sum of all parts being worth less than the actual parts. And I find it really incredible just how unappealing that they've managed to make what on paper is pretty good, just really, really, really gaudy. The track Feels Bad Man, which is this track which has these very heavy Linkin Park style throat shredding, treble heavy screaming parts over top of this frankly kind of whack bass trade-off between the guitars, and there's a piano here. I just don't get how they've managed to compile such, well, it's a mess. Just this is an utter mess. They've managed to compile a mess here. I don't get how they've done it, but they've done it. This is messy. That's really what this whole thing is. The whole album, every song, every moment of every song is just a mess. It's just like the sink water at the bottom of the sink at like a commercial restaurant that's all just like the grease and the grime and the lettuce and the bacon bits, and yes, I worked at a sandwich shop when I was a teenager. But that's not the point. This is the sloppy second leftovers that get caught in the drain, is like what most of what is here. And I'll level with you, this is far from the worst music that I've heard. Actually, on a list of bad music, this is towards the better side, but it lands right in this cavern of mediocrity where you get these bands that have a ton of talent who really, really, really want to put together something completely unique. But that pursuit of being something special or something unique ends up hitting bands like this with a dilemma. And that dilemma seems to be, do you risk the quality of your songwriting by trying to push things to the next level, or do you just kind of stick safe? And in some cases, you can tell when a band is probably would have been far better off playing it safe, and there is this inverse too, where a band is good but should have probably pushed the envelope more. And I think Dance Gavin Dance are one of those acts that maybe miscalculated and maybe took a wrong step somewhere along the way. And I know it's incredibly unlikely to happen because people still listen to this band for some reason, so my opinion isn't really going to matter that much or change anything, but I would really love for these guys to go back to the drawing board and really do some thinking and make some very hard adjustments. At least, you know, obviously this band isn't trying to appeal to me, and I don't need it to, but that would be my advice. Just think about what you've done. Anyway, that's more or less my thoughts on pretty much everything here. I've played this album through a few times, and the only thoughts that have really been inspired by those listens have been negative ones, so I don't think that I'm gonna pick apart every track for you, because honestly, like this album, that's just gonna get really, really predictable. But since we're here, I'll give you some of the quicker thoughts. Die Another Day has some of the most hideous, way too in-your-face vocal change-ups with more of these throat-shredding vocals, and the clean vocals just, yeah, they are too goddamn much. Really, I think it would feel a lot less easy to tear into this if they just picked a vocal style and stuck with it, but this mesh does not work, and it makes it much lower hanging fruit than it otherwise would be. The midpoint of Polka Dot Dobbins had a pretty good, pretty groovy bit that is kind of wrapped delicately in more of these segments that are utterly overdone. A lot of what this album is what would happen if you left a Treyu in the oven for too long, just really overdone. Back on Deck has this pumped up drum beat that actually is a really great start for this song. Reminds me a lot of like a TV on the radio cut, and it predictably falls apart very quickly with these very big breakdowns that are really, really stale. With the amount of people that bug me for not liking this band very much, I really wish I did find some more stuff here that was for me, so people would kind of just finally stop bugging me about this, but I just cannot really get past a lot of what is here. I can't really get into Dance Gavin Dance pretty much at all. And this album in particular really feels like Dance Gavin Dance are trying their best to be like the Imagine Dragons of pop punk or something. So in a sane world, Dance Gavin Dance would probably not have made it as a viable act for as long as they have. I'm thinking Jackpot Juicer is a 2. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this album in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe, and check out my Instagram, my Reverb, and my Depop. Links to those are in the description below. Thank you all so much again, and we'll see you on the flip side.